How you guys doing? This is very important. The Royal Protocol is a birth certificate. All the TV stations and radio stations are supposed to have copies of my birth certificate. They were supposed to be delivered, or they're supposed to be able to look it up on a database. And in reference to the Greenfield forgery document that they made when they were holding me hostage here back in the 80s, when my mother was tracking these individuals that had kidnapped me, and my mother had court cases too in Indiana. The state of Indiana lost in those court cases, and yet they kept kidnapping me. And from California, they kidnapped me from North Carolina. They kidnapped me from New York, and they kidnapped me from California several times. And then I had to get rescued several times. My mother had to hire people to rescue me and for security. And my mother had court cases. And there was even law enforcement that was in some of those court cases and attorneys back in the 80s and, throughout the years. It's very important. But, in reference to this Greenfield forgery, it's a fake birth certificate they made, and they've been making me use that Greenfield document every time they've kidnapped me, every time they've held me hostage. Like, what's the obsession of this person trying to call me a person from Greenfield, Indiana? Now, in reference to that Greenfield document, what do you think that Greenfield document is? It's a forgery. These people made the Greenfield document to kidnap me and to hold me hostage. Because my mother had sent the school system truancy officer over to the house where they were holding me hostage. And they were like, why isn't that kid in school? Or, I was younger back then. But, and then somebody went and made this Greenfield document. Some people know where it was made at. Some people know which people made it. And it was a forgery. And they have tried to use this Greenfield document to hold me hostage, which is a fake birth certificate. Now, the information, I'm over the age of 18, obviously, and over the age of 21. But, in reference to the information, what do you think that Greenfield fake birth certificate, it's a fake birth certificate that they made. What do they think it is? Even after all the court cases in the past of the information of who I am and who my biological parents are, even when my mother had court cases against these government people, and the government lost in every single court case. It's very important. Why did they think that a fake birth certificate from Greenfield, Indiana, that they'd be able to control my life? I've never been a criminal, never done drugs, never been involved in anybody's bullshit, And these people thought that they'd use a fake birth certificate to hold me hostage. The city of Indiana, or the state of Indiana, and Greenfield, Indiana, which is like a small town, I was not born there. The Royal Protocol is in the media 24 hours a day. And they need to find out who the person is that's trying to live out my life by holding me hostage, and they're trying to steal my mother and father's estates. That person has to get arrested. But, in reference to, whichever person is trying to claim they thought the Royal Protocol was their birth certificate when it's my birth certificate and only my birth certificate. And it's got other information of property, companies, and businesses that I'm the owner of, in reference to my mother and father's estates, too. But this Greenfield document, which is a fake birth certificate that they made, they have tried to use that document as a way of holding me hostage in Indiana. It's a fake birth certificate. It's only a fake birth certificate that they made. It's not a law or a document where they'd be able to control my life. It's not a document of where they'd be able to steal my money or property or land or companies of my birth name. But they have tried to use this Greenfield document illegally as a way of trying to control my life. Greenfield, Indiana does not own anybody. Greenfield, Indiana does not own people just because they have a fake birth certificate from Greenfield, meaning they made this document. I didn't make this document. My parents didn't make the document. These government agents and their government people made the document. But the information is very important in reference to what they have tried to do with this Greenfield document. They've tried to steal my mother and father's estates. They tried to steal billions of dollars. They tried to steal my penis. They damaged my teeth. They damaged my face. And Greenfield, Indiana is not a hick town. It's not a back roads town. It's like there's history behind Greenfield, Indiana, of like poets. Some poets came from there. James Whitcomb Riley. And, it's not a hick town. It's not a hillbilly town either. You understand that? It's just a point of information. And no, I'm not from Arkansas. Never from Arkansas. I own my mother and father's companies in all 50 states and businesses. And that's a fact. I'm the owner of my mother and father's estates. I'm the only child of my mother and father. And then my birth certificate's documented on hard copy too, in reference to my real birth name. And my real birth name's the same as my mother and father's name. You guys know that, right? So in reference to somebody saying, well, what's his real birth name? It's the same exact name as my mother and father. My birth name is the same name as my mother and father. You understand? And they have that on record too. And the same name of my grandparents too. Because I'm the only child. I'm the last of the bloodline. But some people know that information. And that needs to be advertised in the media. Oh, and hello, Channel 12 News. How you guys doing? Watching a little of that on TV. But in reference to New York, Long Island, and New Jersey, how you guys doing? And hello, Macy's Parade. Lots of things of importance. But, in reference to this Greenfield document, these government people have tried to use this Greenfield document as their way of trying to claim they thought I was property of the state of Indiana. Those people have to get arrested. A birth certificate is not a document where you can kidnap a person from another city and state and try to hold them hostage in that city and state. Remind yourself, the Greenfield document is a forgery. It is a government forgery that the government made to hold me hostage. When my mother was in court, she brought in copies of my real birth certificate into the courts back in the 80s. Plus, the Supreme Court knew who I am. They knew who my parents are. Because when I was a little boy, I had injuries. My father carried me into the courtroom because I had injuries. I was all bandaged up from injuries that I had had before. They even have a video of it at the Supreme Court somewhere, is what has been mentioned before. They were supposed to have a copy of it, where my father and my mother was there in the courtroom, and I was there when I was little, and I had been bandaged up because I had been injured. But, in reference to the information, these people are trying to use this Greenfield document as trying to call me a slave of somebody of Greenfield, Indiana. Trying to call me a slave of the city of or the state of Indiana. Or the city of Indianapolis. I'm not even from here. My mother beat every single government office in every single court case. They didn't win not even one court case at all. Not even one. But look what they've tried to do with this Indiana document. They tried to claim that they thought I was the property of the state of Indiana. Look at the information. Look what schools I went to. I went to Beverly Hills Elementary, Junior High, and High School. I went to Performing Arts School. Went to film school, too. Went to school in Colorado. Went to Jewish school in New York and Catholic school. And, Catholic and Jewish school in California acknowledgments. And before these people had kidnapped me, when they kidnapped me, they tried to erase my family history. These people was trying to steal my mother and father's companies, my mother and father's estates. And somebody's got something to say. My DNA has been on record at the White House. It's been on record at the Supreme Court, at the Treasury, in England, France, and Italy, and America, and in Asia, too, and some other places. And my DNA's on record in Canada, and some other places too. So in reference to the government man, trying to use this Indiana forgery document of a fake forged birth certificate. What do you think a birth certificate is, government man? You think it's a way for you to stalk somebody? You think it's a way for you to confuse a person's identity? When the Royal Protocol documents, which is a birth certificate of mine, and family history, it's got some other information in there, has been on record way before this Greenfield document. They made the Greenfield document in the fucking 80s. They made it in the 1980s. It's not a real document from the 70s or 60s or anything like that. They made the forgery in the 80s, in the 1980s. And they've been trying to use that document to kidnap me and to hold me hostage all the time. So people need to find out who these people are, where they came from, what race and religion they are, and who they think they are to use a birth certificate as a way of holding a person hostage to steal sperm or to steal blood or to steal monies or accounts, or these people trying to steal my real birth name. My real birth name's the same as my father and my mother and my grandparents, because I'm the last of the bloodline of my mother and father. And it's on record, too. My real birth name is the same as my mother and father and my grandparents. And it dates back even numerous hundreds of years in reference to family history. I have to carry all the names of my family history, on record, point of information. So in reference to this man and this Greenfield document bullshit, this man has tried to go around slandering my character. This man has grabbed me and damaged my teeth and tried to call me a hillbilly, tried to call me white trash, tried to call me a poor boy, tried to make up shit about my mother and father and his government fucking tricks. When my mother and father was two of the largest landowners in America, two of the largest landowners in New Jersey and New York and Texas and Chicago and California and all 50 states. Look up the information. Nothing's ever for sale. Nothing's ever gonna be for sale. I'm the only child of my mother and father and grandparents forever. And I'm the owner. Can't give nothing away to any children either. So all those people that stole sperm and illegally made children, they don't get nothing. And I have a very long lifespan, too. And I'm going to be real tall in the future, too. Even though these satellite controllers and these government people have tried to prevent me from getting taller with their satellite games, those people need to go into court. But the point of information, the news networks need to ask these people what the hell they're trying to do with that Greenfield document. And I want the court information of every time my mother had to go to court against these people. I want it on the news. I want all the videotapes on record for public viewing. Of course, the government's going to have to pay me residual monies on that, because they're the ones holding me hostage and they're the ones continuing this hostage situation. And these people had grabbed me and damaged my teeth. These people have shot at me. They've tried to murder me since I was a little boy. My mother even had it on record. Now, the point of it is getting down to the facts of who these people are, where they came from, what they're trying to do. I'm supposed to be at my mother and father's mansions. This man's blocking me from my mother and father's mansions, and all his conspirators are. Is that man trying to move in to my mother and father's mansions? My mother and father built those mansions. My grandparents built mansions. And my mother and father bought other properties too, which I am the owner of those. So in reference to this government man and their activity of trying to use this Greenfield document, when my DNA has been on record in numerous places, And this man has tried to steal my blood and tried to forge his identity by trying to claim he thought he was a relative of mine and my mother and father. And this man is some German or Middle Eastern man. And they are not any relative, and they are not no blood relative of any kind. So the question is, why hasn't the news networks or why hasn't the courts put a stop to these people's tricks? Why am I still being held hostage? Because they made this fake Greenfield document? Anybody could make another document tomorrow, and then somebody would try to hold me hostage with their bullshit. My mother beat them in court in reference to that Greenfield document. My mother had brought documents of my real birth certificate into the courtroom, and it's on court records. So in reference to the government trying to play their tricks, they are disrupting the factual records of the courts. They are violating the court proceedings and the court acknowledgments of what had been settled in reference to prosecuting, meaning the case had ran its course. My mother had beat them in court in their activities of trying to claim they thought I was their child, these government people. In reference to that man that had kidnapped me and held me hostage among his family members, there was court cases about that too. So in reference to the courts, why are the courts withholding my birth certificate information from the media? Even though the Royal Protocol is in the media, and all the TV stations and radio stations and newspapers are supposed to have copies of it. So why has this man and his people been getting away with this when it's already been documented that they lost in court with all the factual evidence of DNA, family history, who my parents are, and, I'm supposed to be at my mother and father's mansions. So why is this man holding me hostage, trying to confuse my race and other ethnicities of people that knew my parents and people that have known me in Hollywood, people that knew me in the media? Who are these people to be holding me hostage with this Greenfield shit, this Greenfield document? Has anybody investigated and say, okay, why are you people using this Greenfield document all the time? It's like a poor boy document. And I was born as like the real Richie Rich, Yeah, that satellite man's been pulling on my face. They try to put bags under the eyes. They've been hitting me in the teeth too this morning, this afternoon. What time is it? It's 12:13 p.m., 11/24/2022. But do you understand that? These people are trying to use a Greenfield document that they forged. What do you think that document is? You think that Greenfield fake birth certificate is a document of what? To block a person from going to another city and state? To block a person because you made up fabrications or lies? What do you think that fake birth certificate is, man? Obviously, the people that made the fucking dirty forgery are the same goddamn people holding me hostage. So does the news network know who the fuck they are? The Royal Protocol's in the media. And this government man has stolen sperm. They've injured me. They damaged my teeth. The teeth have been damaged for several years. They're preventing them from healing. They're still burning my teeth and face. It's attempted murder. And it's illegal use of satellite technology to be riding somebody's face with a satellite and damaging their teeth and hitting them in the mouth all the time. The satellite controller is a fucking psycho. The satellite controller is delusional, meaning he makes up shit like he's psychosomatic, makes up shit to torture me. And the man has to get prosecuted for sexual violence and beauty hate crimes and mutilations of teeth and facial structure. And they got to get charged for trying to steal my penis. My penis is my penis. They'll say, oh, they thought your penis was too big. I don't give a fuck what you think. I'm a real royal, and you're not. My penis is my penis. My anatomy is my anatomy. My genetics are my genetics. And your government agent needs to go into court for all the fucking things you've ever said in your efforts of stealing my money, slandering my character, or the fact of you blocking me from my money. This government man would try to steal my money and say, he thought you might buy something illegal. Like what? That sounds like you're trying to create false suspicions. I've never bought nothing illegal in my entire life. And you need to go to court for your financial scams and fraud and misrepresentation of my identity. And the fact that you tried to downgrade who I am as your way of slandering in your activities of trying to murder me. And I have royal diplomatic immunity. It's even in the royal protocol, it tells you that. And the government man that's doing this shit needs to get prosecuted for his crimes. It's attempted murder every single day. And they've wasted so many decades and so many years of my life. And they've blocked me from female friends that want to spend time with me, or female friends that want to be in a relationship with me. And this government man has slandered my character. Find out what the relationship that these government people had with this impersonator that's trying to steal my identity. What's the name of the person they tried to confuse me with? How many different people have they tried to confuse me with that had criminal records? You know, I was in TV shows and movies growing up, and modeling too. And all the names that I performed under in reference to modeling or singing or dancing is on record and it's copywritten. And I own copyrights. So in reference to this government man, find out what the history of this person is that they tried to confuse my identity with. Find out what schools they went to. Find out what their career has been. Find out what their relationships have been. What females that person had dated. What schools that person had went to. And then see how that would compare to any of the schooling history of mine and the types of girls that I have dated that are celebrity females or supermodels or actresses or musical females that sang or females that's been on TV. This is very important. Find out who their impersonator is and do a background check on their history. What type of people they hang out with. What church or what schools they went to. And what ties they have to which politician. The royal protocol's in the media 24 hours a day. It's a birth certificate of my identity. The news media needs to do stories on it. Politics can't block the story. Any politician that's trying to block it must get sued and prosecuted for holding me hostage and causing me physical injury to my teeth and face. And they must be investigated to see if they were involved in any sperm theft or blood theft or any forgeries of documents, or if they slandered my parents' character. Yeah, find out what these people have tried to do, whoever these bad people are, and it all has to be on record. Even the medical people that's tried to steal my sperm, the medical people that's tried to steal my penis, or the medical people that tried to steal things from my anatomy. I have rare genetics. My DNA is one of a kind. So it's not easy to confuse my identity with somebody else's. So in reference to these people trying to play tricks, those people need to go into court. And today is 11/24/2022, which is Thanksgiving Day. And it's 12:20 p.m. Indianapolis, Indiana time.